What's going on, guys? It's Shadow bringing you guys some Gundam beta content from game night. So I lost dice roll. My opponent chose to go second, which is the better option to do since you do get the extra resource. However, first in this game does get to draw, so this the only drawback is that you just don't get to play out maybe a level 2 resource or Gundam. So you see there I do play out 2 Zaku 2s. Since I have 2 resources, I'm able to play up to a level 2. You see the one underneath, that's its cost. So my opponent played out a Demi Trainer, which is just a blocker. The Zaku 2 that I played is a 1-2, but when it attacks, it gets an extra 2 attack points. So it swings for 3, which is great to clear the base. So before you hit any of the shields, which is essentially your life, you have to go through the base, which has a health of 3. There are other cards in the game that is considered a base. It is a base with like 5 health. So different situations can happen, but you do see my opponent plays a card. It's called Overflowing Affliction, which is a draw 2, trash 1. So it's basically helping you filter out your hand to find pieces that you need while technically replacing itself. So to kind of give yourself some more options here. And you see he uses it twice. So at this point you can tell that my opponent is trying to dig for some card that he needs. But the good thing for me is it essentially is taking up his entire turn, because now he has one more resource, which is the EX resource, but that's essentially the only thing trying to keeping him ahead. And you see he trashes the Gundam Wing, which is honestly probably one of the most broken cards in the beta right now. It's got Breach 5, which is essentially it gets to attack your base even without actually hitting it. So pretty good mechanic. And you see here I do play a Wing Gundam Bird mode, which on play lets me get an EX resource, which essentially I'm ramping one of the extra dons or resources. So I will say after you use your EX resource, it does go away. So there is that. You don't get to keep it the entire game, so that's why probably my opponent was hesitant on using it. But that bird mode kind of brings me up to par. And you do see my opponent is playing out a Strike Gundam, which is a 3-3, but it's a draw 1, trash 1. So again, white, in my opinion, has good removal and good kind of card filter. It allows you to like filter out what you need and what you don't need. As you see is exactly what he's doing. Green is more of like a ramp deck with also, Breach is kind of like being able to attack base without attacking base. And you do see here he does link one of the Gundams. So Kira is a pilot, which when attacking it does do you can choose one of my Gundams and do -2 AP, which I guess he forgot to declare there because he did put a damage counter on his Strike Gundam. He technically should have took 0 damage, but yeah, and then he burst another Kira. So the way that this goes is like you can link a pilot, but it's got to have the same traits so it can gain rush. As you see here at the bottom of a card, it will say a pilot name or a trait, and it can essentially give it rush. You can attack the same turn. If it doesn't meet that requirement, you cannot rush with the card, but you can get at least the attack stats or in the health stat. So I do play out a level 5 4 cost AO Strike Gundam, which is one of the legendary rares in the set. Pretty great card. It can link with Kira, which is the one that he used, and it could give it rush. But when it links with a 4 cost, or when it pairs with a 4 cost pilot, a level 4 pilot, I can bounce a 4 cost to the hand. So really great way to kind of keep board control with being able to bounce. And not only that, it has a blocker stat as well. So white has heavily centered around blockers and being able to remove. And you do see he uses another Overflowing Affliction, which is really great for a beta, being able to have 3 copies of that card. And you do see here he does use the Kira pilot with the Strike Gundam to gain the rush. This time he does realize that he does have Kira's ability, so he takes no damage since he declared it on the Wing Gundam. The way I've realized that this game goes, it kind of goes down to board control. You don't want to give your opponent a lot of board, because if they are able to go wide, they can just start chipping away at your life. So you do see here I do use the base Flamel, which allows me to deploy. Well, when I deploy it, I take one of my shields, and then I get to pull out a counter. So I do have now a 3-1 Char Zaku 2. Kind of way to try to keep the board consistent. So I do trade my AO Strike Gundam just so, again, I can keep the board clear on his side. And as you see here, I do flood the board with 2 more Gundams using my EX resource. And I do this just so I can go wide. At best, he might clear the Char Zaku 2 unless he's able to rest. And in this game, the blue color is what revolves around resting your opponent's character. So I don't think he's running blue. I've really just seen white. I believe he's running green, yeah, because we did see the Wing Gundam getting tossed. So I really don't have to worry about blue so much. And you do see he does also do the Flamel, taking a shield and putting out a token. A good way I have realized is getting around tokens. You can use like Hawk of Endymion or Blair of the Witch, which can bounce cards, or like Perfect Strike Gundam can bounce a 1 health card. If you bounce a token, it doesn't go back to hand, it just basically vanishes. So it's a way to get rid of it. And you do see here my opponent tries to rush with this Rick Dom, but it doesn't have the specific trait in like the black section of the card, so it doesn't gain rush. But it does link, because at the top the Gundam do have like traits to them as well. If it links with the correct pilot, because there are phrases where it says link, it'll gain that extra ability. So there's a difference between when paired and link when you do pair the Gundam. So something to pay attention to. You do see I tell him you can take it back, because again, we're in the beta. This is our first game. Well, this is his first game. This is like my 3rd game because I got a little bit of practice in. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. So you don't go and rush in. Sometimes it's good to at least set a Gundam on the field and then just pair it with a pilot the turn after. That way you're not wasting a pilot and you could still get the abilities the next turn. So just food for thought right there. I think he's still going to play out the Rick Dom just without the Char pilot, which is the better thing to do. You do kind of want to flood the board. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm really outpacing him. All he has is the token and the Rick Dom. I'm tapping 3 to play the Perfect Strike Gundam. And then again, this is an example of now I'm clearing his board without even attacking into it, because that Char Zaku 2 would have did 3 damage back, and it essentially would have killed any of my Gundams right there. So, and the Perfect Strike is also a blocker as well. So if I have Kira in my hand, I can give it rush as well, which you do see that's a Hawk of Endymion to perfect way. I just cleared his entire board without attacking it. So Hawk of Endymion can bounce a 3 health character, which is exactly what I did. And then you see that I do pair Chang Wu Fei with the Galuge, and I do this just to give it the attack stat. It doesn't get the ability that Chang Wu Fei would give, but I do this just so that I can, swing at life consistently. And you do see he ends up taking all 3 hits right there, so that's really good for me. There is a chance that he can burst, which burst is essentially like trigger like One Piece would do. You could burst out like a base and essentially get 5, like a little shield blocker with 5 health. So you actually have to kind of watch how you attack, because there has been times where I've attacked with my highest attack stat character, like the Wing Gundam, when I could have swung with my little baby, and he triggered out a base, which kind of just entirely throws off what I was trying to do. So you definitely have to pay attention to how you use your stuff. And you do see there he does play Perfect Strike to bounce my token, and he ends up having the Shenlong with the Chang Wu Fei link. So the Shenlong Gundam does gain rush since he had the correct pilot, and he's trying to figure out exactly what to do. So Chang Wu Fei has an ability when you're paired with a breach type Gundam, which Shenlong is. If you attack into something with 3 action points or less, you take no damage. So if he were to swing into the Strike Gundam, he would take no damage to the Shenlong, and breach 3 does happen, which means my base would take 3 damage. So again, if the Wing Gundam was swinging with breach 5, it would completely destroy the base. Rick Dom has breach 2, it would do 2 damage to the base. So kind of getting the concept of breach is essential. It's a very strong trait in my opinion. He does swing, and he's attempting to swing at the Strike Gundam. I choose to block because essentially I would trade. He would have killed the Strike Gundam for free. So I traded with my blocker so I can remove it from the field, because I'd rather just get it off the field, take the breach 3, which is exactly what happened. So I end up swinging with the Galuge to his shields, because I'm swinging for 6-4, so if he decides to block, we would essentially trade with each other. Don't know exactly what I have. I believe I might have a Wing Gundam. So yeah, he does trade with me. I swing the Strike Gundam, and then yep, so I do have a Wing Gundam and a Launcher Strike Gundam. So again, I'm flooding the board, which is essentially the thing you kind of want to do. Down to 1 card in hand, which is unfortunate for me, but I have the pressure here. Wing Gundam can win me the game if he plays out lower cost bodies, and then the Launcher Strike is a blocker, but it's mainly there just so I can go wide this turn. So yeah, at this point my opponent's in a pretty rough spot. He could use the base that he has in his hand, but he would have to take his last shield, and I have more than enough characters to really put pressure on him. And then that's one of the ones that can bounce. So as long as you have, if your opponent has a character with 5 health or less, you can bounce it. So bouncing the Wing Gundam was what he needed to bounce, because if not, I could have fully utilized that thing to be able to win the next turn. So at this point, it's going to rely on what he plays down, because so playing out a base is exactly what he needed to do, because now I don't have enough on my board to be able to clear it fully, because I'd have to attack with both Gundams to be able to get through. And now he's mirroring what I do. He flooded the board with 2 other characters, but I'm still sitting good. I have 5 shields and a base. I've had pretty much the momentum this entire time. And I ended up putting another Flamel just so that I can get a draw and put out another counter. But essentially I'm looking for a pilot, and you see here, looks like I might have found it right here. Nope. So I find Citizens Take a Stand, which allows me to buff up my character, so I end up going for the game right here. So that gives my characters a +2 attack stat, which allows me to go for games, since I can buff up the Strike Gundam to a 5 attack point, and then this for another 5, which allows me to clear base. If I didn't find that, because I drew it from my shields off the Flamel, it definitely would have cost me the game. So I essentially got lucky finding it. If not, I would have had to win the next turn. So it's a good thing so it's a good way to kind of filter out and trying to find pieces so that you can win the game. But yeah, this is game 1 of the Gundam beta. I do have more that I'm gonna push out. If you guys like the content, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, like the video, comment down below what you guys thought of the game, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.